Good Tuesday morning, Market Chameleon and everyone else joining us for the first time. How you doing, Dima?
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Awesome. The disclaimer's up. You want to start with that?
Yeah, 1 second, actually.
What's
Can you
going
hear me
on
okay? I unplugged the mic before I'm putting it back in. Is that all right?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Yep. Good morning, everyone. Before we get started, keep in mind, Will and I, Market Chameleon, we're not registered investment advisors. We're not broker dealers. We're not telling you what to do. We're just sharing ideas. If you need professional help, call your broker. That's what they're there for, to help answer questions and provide you with guidance. There's a disclaimer.
Excellent.
Yep.
So what's on tap for this morning?
So I think what I'll do is go over some of the pre-market screener features that we have. I got a couple questions that came through with that. So I'm going to focus today on that. If you guys have any questions, any of the Market Chameleon tools, analytics, things you've seen out there that in your trading that you think is unusual, you want to discuss, you could ask that in the chat on YouTube, on the live chat, or you could also, Will puts out a link there to Zoom. If you click over to Zoom, you could raise your hand and ask your question live. You don't have to turn on your video camera, but this is a way to ask your question directly. If we don't have any questions, I'll just go on with that pre-market screener. Sounds good, Will?
Perfect.
All right. So today, this is the pre-market report, and these are stocks that are trading in the pre-market hours. We have the most active stocks, biggest percentage gainers, biggest percentage decliners. Coming down here, I see 62 made the percentage gainers list, 265 on the percentage decliners list. So from that perspective, it looks like more bearish bias at the open. I'm going to also use some of these filters up top to see what's going on in the S&P 500 stocks. So this filter here in ETF, I'm going to drop it down. By selecting SPY ETF, this will filter this report by the components in the SPY. So let's select that. And we see one stock made our percentage gainers list, 75 on the percentage decliners list. So you could see right now, it looks like a much more bearish bias at the open. Kind of like the reverse of what we had yesterday. And we are seeing volatility now picking up. We've been talking about that, where we're getting, large swings now back and forth. If you have any questions, I'm going to move on to the pre-market screener. I don't think we've, touched on this for a while, but usually we just go to this report, the pre-market report, but you do have a couple more tabs up here, which is the screener, the pre-market screener, and then pre-market block trades. And in this screener, on the summary, when we look at the summary page, I'm going to come back to it. You can screen a couple, use some of these filters over here to screen, but the stocks that make this list are based on certain thresholds. They have to meet certain thresholds, either volume thresholds or price change thresholds, and we look for other elements in there, based on like the quotes and stuff, just so we know that these look like they're actually really trading and moving. But if you wanted to screen for your own filters or have no filters, then you could go to the screener. So sometimes people, some people look at very low price stocks or penny stocks or something else that they just want to screen out and then make their decisions from there. So you can do that, and we created this screener up here, and this will allow you to set your own threshold. So two things here that we defaulted to on the screener, that the stock has to be above $5. So you could change that and just pick any, or you could even do below $5. And we did that the volume has to be at least 500 shares in the pre-market, but you could just put to any, the summary page, the thresholds are even higher. Okay, so we wouldn't put anything like if it just traded 500 shares in the pre-market, it's just not enough. It would not make our list. But here you have the ability or the flexibility to set it yourself. And I'm going to come down here, so before we discuss any of these filters and kind of just go over some of the data elements in this table. And here you could see this is the symbol, the last price, percent change based on previous day's close. So it's trading $11.45 in the pre-market. That's up 50% from the previous day's close. And this is the volume, 6.9 million shares trading in the pre-market hours in PPSI. Right now, this list is sorted by default by volume. But if you press on any of these headings, it'll just resort the whole table. Then you have some reference data points. So here we could see the previous day's low and high. So this stock traded yesterday as low as $5.56, as high as $8.20. So that's a pretty wide range already for this stock. And these are the pre-market stats over here. And this here, I'm going to talk about it a little bit more, is the VWAP. So that's the volume weighted average price. Right? I think I got like a couple questions about VWAP this just in the past, week. So I'm going to discuss that a little bit more. But this is the volume weighted average price VWAP in the pre-market. So $11.85. If we compare the most current price to the VWAP, it's 3.4% below that VWAP. And this in the pre-market is the lowest price, low price and high price in the pre-market hours. So that's looking at the price statistics, right, in the pre-market. You could also take a look, what about the volume? Is that a high volume for this stock in the pre-market? So then we could take a look at most recent history. So we look at 20 trading days and we take the average daily volume in the pre-market. And we see here that this traded on average a little bit over 1.1 million. So it tends to be pretty active already in the pre-market, right? If we take a look at that, but today's volume, 6.9 million. If we take 6.9 million divided by the average daily, that's more than 6 times its average daily. So today, pretty active. Here we have the market cap of the stock. So it's small. You can see here it's a small cap, 66 million market cap. Shares outstanding, 8.7 million. The float out there, 4.4 million. So if we compare just the shares outstanding and the float, that's very active, right? If we just take a look, just compare the amount of shares out there versus the volume today. And over here, we just give you some headline news that we're picking up from some of our sources. So if you scroll down, you could click on these, read the news. But if we are picking up some headline news, we'll kind of just put it in there. So you can see here, IMGN up 50%. Really quickly, I could come over here, just, read about it. Gains on, positive data, ovarian cancer, top line results, and so forth. So this way you could kind of just like scan with your eyes, quickly assess what's going on that way. So up here, you got a bunch of filters, and this is, let me just show you I'm going to release this. So I'm going to say, don't worry about the volume. Don't worry about the price. So any price, this is kind of what people start out with because they don't see low price stocks and then they see it somewhere and it's a big percentage gain. Because if you take a 10-cent stock and it moves 3 cents, right, it's going to look like a 30% gain. So here's one right here. I've resorted this by percentage change. So here you have a 99-cent stock. It looks like it's up 67% in the pre-market. And that traded 300 shares. Okay. So that's kind of like why we set thresholds, because when you're looking at this, and I hope people see that, right? When you have a 99-cent stock, and this looks to me like it's a right? It's kind of a warrant. So when you see this, right, and it looks like a big percentage gain on 300 shares, low price, you got to start thinking, is that really moving? Are you going to jump on that? Is this price really there? So you got to be careful. That's why when you get a lot of these, right, if your pre-market report's filled up with these, it's a little bit deceiving. Some of these have more volume, but this is just one example why our scanner and algorithm looks for certain things to make that list. Is that making sense? Hopefully to people.
Yeah, that's helpful, Dave.
Okay. What I wanted to also kind of discuss here, if you don't have any questions, is I get questions, well, why do we reference VWAP a lot? So, institutional traders reference VWAP a lot. You hear certain trades are actually certain order types are VWAP trades. So if you have to move a lot of stock, you will hear institutional traders, I'm VWAPing the stock. You have like time VWAPs and, all kinds of different VWAP order types, and institutions will sometimes VWAP over a longer period of time, depending what they want to do. But VWAP is important in institutions, especially when you're trading, anybody trading professionally with a lot of stock. All right, so let's take a look at that. What this means, VWAP. Unless you have questions, I'm going to go to that VWAP.
Yeah, you can move over to VWAP.
Let me try to put up the notepad, actually. Maybe, try to demonstrate it this way. So when you have a trade, right, like trades, time and sale, what do you usually see? You see like a price of the trade and then the volume, right, and timestamp and whatever. But let's just say these are going in order. And I'm going to show you really quickly. Let's just say I'm analyzing 3 trades, just to make things easier visually. And let's say the first trade was $20 and the volume was, I'm making this up as I go along, but let's say 5,000 shares, right? So volume is in shares. Okay. And let's say the next trade that comes in, it's $20.50. And let's say that's 200 shares. And then another trade comes in, $21, and that's 100 shares. So you could see like this would be, the sequence from the last one, right? So last price is $21. And, when you're trading, you're using some kind of a model to the, for maybe a valuation model, statistical model, whatever it is, but you're analyzing these prices and where's the stock really, right? How much weight do you want to give to it and what do you want to do? And in the absence of not seeing the limit order book, right? So let's say we don't see that. We're just analyzing the trade prices. We kind of have to determine, well, where is this, what is this stock really worth? Where is it priced? And looking at this, if this is our data here, how much weight do we want to give to $21? It's fair to say that's the last price. So maybe that's where we say that's its real value. But, looking at this volume, right? Looking at this volume, we'll say, okay, well, in the last minute, this is where it traded. I could use the average price here, $20.50, right? Or I could give more weight, right? I could just say it's $21. That's the last price. Or I could say, well, most of the volume was right here around 20. So if I took the average based on volume, right? So it would be something, it would be like this, price times volume. Let's see, times volume, right, for each one. And then you divide it all by volume, you get a VWAP price, volume weighted average price. So if I did that, then my VWAP price would be much closer to $20 than 21. Okay, so your last price, and you could compare that. How far away is my last price from the VWAP? How far away is it getting? And how much weight do I want to give to this $21, right? Because it's trading up thinly. And you could start making some assumptions why it's doing it, or maybe it's just, maybe this is not a good price, in your model. But that's why it's very important when you're looking at institutional trades, they're going to follow the VWAP usually, right? So those institutions are following the VWAP, and when they measure their performance, they usually do it relative to the VWAP, right? So they even have actually certain metrics that they have to show. They're trying to, because they have an obligation to their customers to say, hey, we're trying to get best execution. They're gonna, or even their brokers will give them statistics, and they're gonna show them, how close their executions got to like maybe the day V. So is that making sense? Let me know if you have any questions coming up. So I'll give you.
It seems to be good.
Let's take a look at an example of a VWAP here. Let's go to Apple. So let's take a look at Apple, and I'm gonna look at the historical data here. Now, this isn't pre-market, this is for the whole day, right? And you could see here, these are historical dates, right? You got your open price, high, low, close, the change on the day, percent change, the volume, and then the day's VWAP. Okay, so one way to compare it, is to say, well, how far away did my closing price? How far away did I close away from the VWAP? Right. So you could say, is it very close, or did this price kind of get away from that day VWAP? So here it looks like, the day VWAP is much higher than where that stock closed. And it's one way to see, will the pressure come back towards the VWAP, right? Or is it very volatile? So there's a lot of things that you can measure that way. Or you could even take this data, I think you'd have to download it, but if you wanted to create, instead of like a 20-day moving average, which a moving average just takes the closing price of the last 20 days and will average those prices. Or you could take the VWAP multiplied back times its volume, right? Take the 20 days and get a 20-day VWAP price, right? So volume weighted average price versus actual just regular closing. The thing with VWAP as well is, what volume do you choose to include in that VWAP? So sometimes the VWAP prices are not going to match up exactly with other potentially platforms, because it's also methodology and what do you include in that VWAP price. So let me explain. Do you have any questions yet? Well,
none popping up, D.
Okay. So sometimes I'll get, some customers looking at the VWAP and saying, well, you know, it doesn't match up with this application or that application. And when we look at the stock trades, right, there are different types of trades that are coming in. And for example, here, you know, they have different conditions, trade conditions. All right. So like, for example, you'll have a contingent trade, right? Actually, you know, let me go back to the before I show you this, I did forget to mention one thing about the pre-market, because I have these 3 tabs here. So you see on the screener, so another thing people do is, as well as, you know, you get this, you know, you could filter out certain stocks and you see they have a lot of volume. Within that volume, you might want to see, well, how much of that volume are large block trades? How many are like really, you know, potentially institutional large block trades, maybe like big whales scooping it up in the pre-market? And one way to do that is kind of go here to the block trades here. And these are pre-market block trades, and you could put in that simple, what was the symbol? IMGN. So yeah. IMGN, you could see here, you know, we got 2 pages of block trades. So, you know, 100 trades that are of significant size. So you can see here a couple, over $100,000 worth of trades being traded. So you see a lot of, to me, that's pointing to, you know, that there are institutional trades going on. They're changing hands, right? So that's another thing that people will look at when they're trying to dissect the volume in that pre-market. Okay, so that's block trades over here. When we talk about the VWAP, though, you're going to get different types of trades. So I'm going to maybe, let me see if I can show you guys. So I'm just going to the big stock block trades that are happening throughout the day. So these aren't pre-market. They're not all pre-market, but I just wanted to kind of show you guys what I mean. So here's a trade condition. And see all these different trade conditions that could happen. You know, some of them, here's the one, contingent. Today we didn't open yet, November 20. So you see a bunch of trades that are stock contingent. So a contingent trade is a stock trade that is tied to a different trade, right? So it could be tied to a derivative. It could be a derivative over the counter. It could be tied to a different stock trade. So these are not just regular trades of just trying to buy the stock or sell the stock. There's a different intent there. For us, for our purposes, we take those out of the VWAP because we don't know what's going on in those trades. It's kind of it's priced based on some package, right? So those we remove from the VWAP calculation. So I get that question, right? Why I don't know how other people are doing it, but to us, we've removed those. What about other trades here? So you could see here, you got, you know, all these average price. Let me see. Average price, bunch sold, bunch. These are, you know, sometimes you get volume corrected close. We take, you know, we adjust for that. Sometimes you have trades removed or trades corrected. So all these things, we look at it closely and make a decision. Should we include it as part of the VWAP or not? Okay. So that's why if I do get that question. If you see why, we might be just using a different methodology because we look at the trade conditions, we look at, you know, how this traded, and we make a decision that we include it as part of the VWAP or not. And, you know, when you get these trades, you know, either contingent. Sometimes these trades are just based on like some kind of a swap in baskets, or whatever is happening. Because we don't understand it, we don't know how this is, what's going on. We've removed that from the VWAP price. So we try to just concentrate where people look like they're actually just trying to buy and sell the stock. Makes sense? Anybody have questions with that?
No questions yet. Everyone seems pretty on board.
Okay, so kind of wanted to just describe that, the VWAP today, and how you guys could just take the pre-market and use the pre-market screener yourself. Set your own parameters, screen for stocks with news. We didn't go over the filters, but just wanted to introduce you to some of those reports that are available to you. And tomorrow, before we leave, tomorrow we're not going to do the morning show tomorrow. We're going to come back Wednesday. Is that correct? Or wait,
That
Thursday.
is, Thursday. Yep, I have a doctor's appointment in the early morning, so
So we're going
it
to
was
skip
either.
it tomorrow. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Good stuff. We did have a
If there are no
question
questions-
from Robert earlier on. If he wanted this, he's asking, is there an overall advanced decline report that is available on MC? The only thing I can think of is doing a screen of this, a stock screen maybe for
let me see. Let me see if I could do it. Like, let me see if these, like, do you mean something like this? Like, here's an SPY, like yesterday, 340 gainers, 3 on change, 163 decliners. I'm not sure if that's what he's looking for. Dow Jones, QQQ, 77 gainers, something like that, 26 decliners. I mean, I'm not sure.
There's a little bit of delay. It was coming. Well, Rob, you just saw it. Let us know. I mean, either send us an email, something we can maybe discuss on Thursday's show. Yeah, that looks helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. You could also just do it also from the screener, so you could do it from the screener. You could just look up, stocks that went up, stocks here. I'll try to do it right now. Net SPY. So this would be yesterday's close. We're not open yet, but this is filtered by S&P 500 stocks, right? And then we could do, let me see where the price changes. So let's just say the price change, any positive. So I could see here 340 stocks were up, right? These are the stocks that were up. And then I could just go any negative. 163 were down, then you get a list of the stocks that were down. So that's another way to do it if you just wanted to use the screener.
All right, perfect. Well, Rob, listen, and again, there's a little bit of a delay. If there's anything else you wanted to see or questions you had, always email support@MarketChameleon.com. Awesome job, Dima, as always. Thanks for joining, Chameleons, new users. Thanks for checking us out. Everyone, have a safe trading day. Awesome job, D.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe out there. Have a good trading day and hope to see you guys not tomorrow, but Thursday.
It will be
Thursday morning.
Thursday.